The emergency siren wailed through the huge metal halls of Theta Station. Ambassador Clicks rushed down the corridor, his 6 legs clicking against the floor. The Galactic Council meeting had been interrupted for only the second time in 700 years. "Show it again," ordered the Dronari representative, his mechanical voice echoing in the vast chamber. The holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. 37 different alien species watched as the distress signal played once more. Static filled the air. Then came screams. Massive explosions lit up the darkness of space. Vornak warships, the most feared vessels in the known galaxy, were being torn apart like paper. Something moved in the shadows, something bigger, darker, more terrible than anything they had ever seen. "This cannot be real," said the Melrathi diplomat, her wings trembling slightly. "The Vornak Empire has never been defeated." "It is real," replied Ambassador Clicks, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "We received this transmission 6 hours ago. All attempts to contact the Vornak fleet have failed. In the far corner of the galaxy, on a blue planet called Earth, Commander Jack Harrison sat in the control room of his ship. Red lights flashed on his console as his communication officer called out, "Sir, we're picking up something strange." "Put it on screen," Harrison ordered, leaning forward in his chair. The USS Vigilance had been on routine patrol near the edge of human space when they detected the signal. The same horrific images appeared on their screens. Lisa Martinez, his tactical officer, felt her stomach turn. "Commander, those ships, they're being destroyed so easily." "Where's this signal coming from?" Harrison asked. "Outer Rim, sir. Grid coordinate 779. Harrison pressed a button on his chair. "Bridge to engine room. Ready all systems. We may need to leave quickly." He turned to his navigation. "Officer, plot a course to those coordinates. I want to know what's happening out there." Back on Theta Station, the Council continued their debate. The peaceful Melrathi raised their voice. "We should be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." "Careful?" The Clordian Defense Minister stood up, his large frame casting a shadow across the room. "The Clordian fleet is already moving. Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. Whatever attacked the Vornak will learn to fear us." The Dronari representative remained calm. "Perhaps we should send our scanning ships first. Knowledge is power." "Knowledge takes time," argued the Clordian. "Action saves lives." Admiral Karen Mitchell reviewed the report in her office on Earth's orbital defense station. The transmission had been brief, but clear enough. Something was destroying Vornak ships, and the Vornak were not known for their weakness. She pressed a button on her desk. "Get me all department heads. I want a full analysis of this signal within the hour." "Yes, Admiral," came the response. Mitchell turned to stare out her window at the blue marble below. Earth had joined the larger galactic community 50 years ago. In that time, they had made friends, made enemies, and learned much about their place in the universe, but this was different. Her assistant entered the room. "Admiral, priority message coming in from the Galactic Council." "Put it through." The holographic form of Ambassador Clicks appeared. "Admiral Mitchell, the Council requests Earth's presence at an emergency session. We have a situation." "I've seen the transmission, Ambassador. We're already analyzing it." "Then you understand the gravity of the situation. Will Earth attend?" Mitchell nodded. "We'll be there. But I think we all know talking won't be enough." The USS Vigilance moved through space at maximum speed. Commander Harrison had ordered his crew to prepare for anything. They had weapons, yes, but against whatever destroyed the Vornak fleet? "Sir, we're approaching the coordinates," reported the navigator. "Slow to sublight speed. All sensors active. I want to know if anything so much as breathes out there." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Before them lay a scene of destruction. Pieces of Vornak ships floated everywhere. Some were still burning despite the vacuum of space. "My God," whispered Lisa Martinez. "There must have been 20 ships here." "Look at the damage patterns," said Harrison. "This wasn't a fair fight. This was a massacre." "Sir," called out the sensor operator. "I'm reading something big. Real big. Looks like it's coming out of hyperspace." The space in front of them began to ripple and bend. Something massive appeared, a ship unlike anything in their databases. It was organic-looking, with sections that seemed to pulse and move like living tissue. "Battle stations," Harrison commanded. "Prepare for—" The alien ship fired without warning. A green beam of energy struck their shields. The Vigilance shook violently. "Return fire," Harrison ordered. "All weapons." Bright flashes lit up the darkness as Earth weapons struck the alien vessel. To everyone's surprise, the strange ship's armor began to crack and burn. "We're doing damage," Martinez called out excitedly. "Don't get cocky," Harrison warned. "That thing is 10 times our size." More alien ships appeared from hyperspace. 5, then 10, then 20. The Vigilance was surrounded. "Sir, we need to run," urged the navigator. Harrison gritted his teeth. Everything in him wanted to fight, to stand their ground. But he had information that might save lives, might save entire worlds. "All power to engines. Get us out of here." The Vigilance turned and jumped to light speed, just as dozens of energy beams filled the space where they had been. On Theta Station, the argument continued. Species after species offered their opinions, their plans, their fears. Some wanted to fight immediately. Others wanted to hide. Some suggested trying to talk with these invaders. Ambassador Clicks received a private message on his communication device. His eyes widened as he read it. "Honored council members," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "I have just received word. The Kello system has gone dark. All communication has stopped." Murmuring filled the room. The Kello system had 5 inhabited planets and billions of beings. Furthermore, Clicks continued, reports are coming in from multiple sectors. These creatures, they're calling themselves Devourers, and they're spreading fast. The Clordian defense minister paced anxiously. His fleet reports were troubling. 2 of his scouting ships had been destroyed before they could even report what they saw. "Council members," he announced, "I motion for immediate military action. United, we can stop this threat." Before anyone could respond, a new signal filled the room. It was Earth, and Commander Jack Harrison appeared on the holographic display, looking battle-worn and tired. "Council members," he said, "I've just returned from the coordinates of the Vornak distress call. These Devourers, they're real, they're dangerous, and they're coming our way." The room fell silent as Harrison continued his report. At that moment, every being in the chamber realized that the galaxy they knew was about to change forever. The safety they had taken for granted for centuries was an illusion. And somewhere out there, in the dark between stars, something hungry was coming to destroy them all. Admiral Mitchell watched Earth's military assets mobilize. Ships that had been mothballed for decades were brought back into service. Soldiers who had never seen real combat prepared for war. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the new threat. She knew they were not ready. None of them were, but ready or not, the war was coming. And Earth, like every other world in the galaxy, would have to be ready to fight for its survival. The distress call had echoed across the galaxy, and in its wake came a terrible truth. They were all prey, now, and their predator had come to collect. The USS Vigilance limped back toward Earth space, its hull scarred and smoking. Commander Jack Harrison stood on the bridge, his uniform dirty and torn from when the ship had shaken violently under enemy fire. "How bad is it?" he asked his engineering officer. "Portside shields are down to 30%, sir. Hull breaches on decks 5 and 6. 2 crew members injured, but they'll be okay. Good work getting us out of there," Harrison said to his crew. "Now let's make sure everyone knows what we faced." 2 days later, the USS Vigilance arrived at Earth's main defense station. Admiral Karen Mitchell was waiting in the docking bay when the crew disembarked. She could see the fear in their eyes mixed with something else. Determination. "Welcome back, Commander. I need a full report." "Yes, ma'am. Those things, the Devourers, they're not like anything we've studied. They don't communicate. They just attack and destroy." Mitchell nodded grimly. "The Council wants a joint session. They're calling it First Contact Protocol. They still think we can talk to these things." Meanwhile, Across the galaxy, the peaceful Melrathi received their first real taste of the Devourer threat. The colony ship Golden Wing was returning from a routine supply run when they encountered a Devourer scout vessel. "This is Melrathi's ship Golden Wing. We come in peace. Please respond to our hail," the captain broadcast in 17 different languages. The Devourer ship's response was a beam of energy that sliced the Golden Wing's tail section clean off. Hundreds of Melrathi civilians were pulled into the void of space. "Distress signal," screamed the first officer. "All frequencies." The message reached the Dronari fleet first. They were the galaxy's technological experts, proud of their advanced sensors and analytical systems. 5 Dronari warships responded to the Melrathi distress call. "Scanning the enemy vessel," reported the lead Dronari captain. "Unknown energy signature. Hull composition appears organic. Wait, it's changing shape." The Devourer vessel grew larger before their eyes, sprouting new weapons pods and armor plating. The Dronari captain had never seen anything like it. "Open fire." Full sensor analysis. During combat, Dronari lasers struck the Devourer ship. Data streamed into their computers as they fought. Meanwhile, the Clordian fleet arrived at the Meridian defense line, their supposed position of unbreakable defense. "General Thork, the Clordian fleet stands ready," reported the fleet commander. "Our shields have never failed us." General Thork nodded confidently. "Station keeping formation, all shields to maximum." When the Devourers appeared, there were more of them than expected. 10, 20, 50 massive bioships dropped out of hyperspace at once. "That's impossible," whispered one of the Clordian officers. "No force that large should be able to coordinate." The Devourers attacked in perfect unison, as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons hit harder than any energy beams the Clordians had faced before. Their famous shields, which had protected them for 1,000 years, began to fail almost immediately. "Retreat!" General Thork ordered, watching in horror as his flagship's shields flickered and died. "Signal all ships to retreat." But it was too late for half the fleet. The Devourers were relentless, pursuing damaged ships until they were reduced to cosmic dust. Back on Earth, President William Ryan gathered his top advisors. Dr. Mary Sullivan, Earth's leading scientist, presented her analysis of the data Harrison had collected. "The readings are concerning, Mr. President. These Devourers seem to be part machine, part biological entity. They adapt quickly to any threat." "What about weaknesses?" Ryan asked. "That's the interesting part," Dr. Sullivan continued. "Their ships are powerful, but they're not as advanced as what the Galactic Council has. They might be stronger because they're unpredictable, not because they're technologically superior." Captain Owen Brooks burst into the room without waiting. "To be announced. Mr. President, I've been reviewing all the battle data. These things fight in patterns. They're predictable if you know what to look for." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "They attack in waves, sir, like a hive mind. There's always one ship that coordinates the others. Take out that ship, and the others get confused for a few moments." The door opened again. This time, it was Ambassador Clix representing the Galactic Council. He looked defeated, his many eyes downcast. "Mr. President, the Council requests Earth's immediate assistance. We have lost more battles than we've won. The Vornak Empire has offered to share battle data, but none of our tactics work against these Devourers." Ryan turned to Captain Brooks. "What do you suggest?" "Let me take a small fleet out there. Show them how humans fight. We don't have their fancy shields or advanced weapons, but we have something they don't." "And what's that?" Brooks smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "We're mean bastards when we're cornered." 3 days later, at the Battle of Sigma Point, the galaxy witnessed something unexpected. 9 human ships led by Captain Brooks's USS Defiance met a formation of Devourer vessels. The other allied species watched in disbelief as the human ships immediately broke their neat formations. Instead of the orderly battle lines the galaxy was used to, the humans charged forward like wild animals. "What are they doing?" asked a Dronari commander, watching the chaos. "They're supposed to maintain defensive formations," Brooks's voice came over the communication channel. "All ships, remember the plan, hit and run. Target their communication nodes, make some noise." The USS Defiance dove between two Devourer ships, firing at maximum rate. The human weapon systems weren't as powerful as Clordian energy cannons, but they fired faster and more accurately. "We've got their attention," called out Lisa Martinez, who was now Brooks' tactical officer. 3 Devourers turning to pursue. "Perfect. Jake, take us into that asteroid field." Jake Peters, the chief engineer, pushed the engines beyond safe limits. The Defiance weaved between space rocks too quickly for its mass, using gravity and momentum in ways that violated standard space combat doctrine. The pursuing Devourers crashed into asteroids they couldn't avoid in time. Their predictable formation, flying, was their weakness against human creativity. Meanwhile, another human ship, commanded by Lieutenant Nina Walsh, performed an impossible maneuver. She accelerated directly toward a Devourer flagship, weapons blazing. At the last moment, she rolled her ship 90 degrees and raked the enemy's communications array with point-blank fire. "This is insane," reported a Melrathi observer. She should have been destroyed. But the human ship survived, spinning away before the Devourer could target her effectively. The enemy formation began to break apart, confused now that their command ship was damaged. Throughout the battle, human ships performed impossible turns, ignored safety protocols, and attacked from unexpected angles. They didn't fight like proper military forces, they fought like street brawlers, dirty and unpredictable. "They're winning," whispered General Thork, watching the battle from his command center. "How are they winning with such inferior technology?" When the dust settled, 5 Devourer ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had suffered damage, but no vessels were lost. Captain Brooks broadcasted to all Allied forces. "This is how Earth fights. We don't follow your rules because your rules get you killed. The Devourers are strong, yes, but they can be beaten. You just need to stop thinking like civilized beings and start thinking like survivors." Ambassador Clicks processed the information slowly. The Galactic Council had rules, protocols, and traditions that stretched back millennia. They fought wars with honor and dignity, but Earth ignored all of that. "The humans," he said to his staff, "they fight like the universe is trying to kill them, because on their world, it always was." That night, in military academies across the galaxy, tactical instructors began studying human combat data. What they saw terrified them, not because the humans were monsters, but because they were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. When survival was at stake, honor meant nothing. The Devourers continued their advance across the galaxy, but word spread quickly. Earth had found a way to fight back, and that discovery would change everything. President William Ryan stood at the podium in the Global Defense Center. The room was packed with Earth's military leaders, scientists, and engineers. Behind him, images of the Devourer threat played on massive screens. "We have entered a state of emergency," he declared. "Starting today, Project Olympus is no longer a secret. Every resource we have will be dedicated to preparing for war." Dr. Mary Sullivan took the stage after the president. "Project Olympus has been developing new weapons for the past 5 years. We took the best of what we learned from other species and made it better. Now it's time to put it to use." In the audience, Major Emma Blake listened carefully. Her Special Forces unit had been training for this day. They didn't know what Project Olympus was exactly, but they knew it would change everything. After the meeting, Dr. Sullivan led a group of military officers to a secure facility buried deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. They passed through several layers of security before entering a massive underground complex. "What you're about to see must stay secret until we're ready," Sullivan warned. She pressed her hand against a scanner, and heavy doors slid open. Inside was Earth's greatest secret, a shipyard larger than anything anyone had imagined. Dozens of new warships were being constructed, sleek and dangerous looking. But that wasn't all. "These are our new battle mechs," Sullivan explained, pointing to several hulking machines being assembled. 30 feet tall, heavily armored, and equipped with adaptive weapon systems. They're designed to fight on planets when ships can't get close enough. Captain Owen Brooks, recently returned from the Battle of Sigma Point, studied the weapons, displayed in another section. "These look familiar," he said, picking up a rifle. "They should. Sullivan smiled. We've been reverse engineering Vornak, Dronari, and Clordian technology. Then we made it more lethal. Brooks tested the weight of the weapon. Permission to train my crew with these? Granted. In fact, I want you to work with our scientists. Your combat experience is exactly what we need to refine these systems. Meanwhile, light years away, Captain Harrison commanded another reconnaissance mission aboard the USS Vigilance. They weren't alone this time. A Melrathi science vessel accompanied them, its captain eager to learn human tactics. We're approaching the Tertio system, reported the navigation officer. Intelligence says the Devourers hit here 3 days ago. All stations, prepare for... Harrison stopped as his sensors detected something unusual. Wait. There are survivors. Down there. The Melrathi captain spoke up over the communication link. We should retreat and report this. Rescue missions or suicide. You can retreat if you want, Harrison replied, but we don't leave people behind. The Melrathi ship watched in amazement as the Vigilance descended through the planet's atmosphere. Devourer scouts had attacked the colony, but a few thousand beings had survived in underground bunkers. Transport ships preparing to dock, reported Lisa Martinez. We'll have everyone aboard in 30 minutes. Make it 20, Harrison ordered. Those scouts might come back. As the rescue proceeded, Jake Peters worked with the colony's emergency systems. Commander, their defense grid is still partially functional. I think we can use it. Good thinking, Jake. Rig it to fire on any ships that aren't broadcasting our codes. The trap worked. 2 Devourer scouts returned just as the last survivors boarded the Vigilance. The colony's automated weapons, modified by human engineers, surprised the enemy ships with precise fire. One was destroyed, the other fled. The Melrathi, captain's voice crackled over the comm. That was impressive. We would have lost many ships trying the same rescue. That's because you think too much, Harrison replied. Sometimes you just have to act. Back on Earth, Admiral Karen Mitchell reviewed reports from the front lines. The news wasn't all good. The Devourers had taken the Helios sector entirely. Billions were missing, presumably consumed by the enemy. Her assistant entered the office. Ma'am, Ambassador Klix is here with urgent news. Klix appeared, looking even more defeated than before. Admiral, the Galactic Council has made a decision. We're forming the United Defense Alliance. Every species will contribute ships and resources. That's wise, Mitchell replied. There's more, Klix continued. The Council wants Earth to lead training programs. The other species, they want to learn your fighting methods. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. I thought our methods were too brutal. They are, Klix admitted. But they work. And we need them. To work if we're going to survive. Training began immediately. Earth's military instructors were assigned to fleets across the galaxy. At the Dronari Naval Academy, Commander Jackson Cole taught officers about something he called fluid combat. Forget formations, he explained to a classroom of confused aliens. Formations are for parades, not survival. You need to think independently while working as a team. But how do we coordinate without strict formations? Asked a Dronari officer. Communication and trust, Cole answered. Your people are great at data sharing. Use that. Share what you see, what you plan, but be ready to change everything in an instant. The Clordian military, proud and regimented, struggled the most with human tactics. General Thork himself attended a session, his massive frame barely fitting, in the human-sized classroom. This is chaos, he grumbled after watching a human combat simulation. No, replied Instructor Sarah Lee. This is adaptation. Your people rely on shields and superior firepower. But what happens when you meet an enemy who doesn't care about your advantages? She showed footage from the Battle of Sigma Point. Look how they break your shield walls. Look how they turn your strengths into weaknesses. Thork watched his fleet's defeat being analyzed coldly, clinically. By the end of the session, he was asking questions instead of complaining. In the medical labs, human doctors worked alongside Melrathi physicians. The peaceful bird-like beings were horrified by some of Earth's combat medicine. You give your soldiers these drugs? Asked a Melrathi doctor, studying a human stimulant pack. They override pain, fear, even exhaustion. This could be dangerous. War is dangerous, replied Dr. Jenkins, Earth's combat medicine specialist. Would you rather have soldiers who feel every wound and get too scared to fight, or ones who can complete their mission and save their squad? When you put it that way. The cultural exchange went both ways. Human scientists studied Dronari shield mathematics, learning to enhance their own defensive systems. Engineers worked with Vornak metallurgists, creating armor alloys stronger than anything either species had made alone. Lieutenant Nina Walsh led perhaps the most important collaboration. Her background in communication systems made her perfect for working with the Melrathi data networks. Your species shares information instantly, she observed. We need to connect that to our tactical systems. Together they developed a hybrid communication network that combined Melrathi information sharing with human combat coordination. The result was a system that let different species fight together more effectively than ever before. Deep in space, the Devourers continued their advance, but now they faced something new, a galaxy learning to fight back with human determination and alien technology combined. Admiral Mitchell received a private communication from an unlikely source. A Vornak general, one whose fleet had been nearly destroyed in the first Devourer attack, sent a simple message. Thank you for showing us how to fight. We request human advisors for our fleet. This from the Vornak Empire, who had once considered humans primitive and weak. Mitchell smiled as she approved the request. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was showing everyone how to survive. In his office, President Ryan studied the latest battle reports. The Devourers were still winning more fights than they lost, but the tide was turning. Species that had fought independently for millennia were learning to work together. And at the center of it all was Earth, the planet many had once dismissed as too violent, too aggressive. Mr. President, his secretary called out. Project Olympus reports they're ahead of schedule. The first wave of new ships will be ready in 2 weeks. Ryan nodded. Good, because something tells me we're going to need everything we've got. Outside his window, Earth's defense stations bustled with activity. Ships from a dozen species came and went, their crews training together for the battles ahead. The distress call had echoed through the galaxy, but humanity's response was echoing even louder. The war was just beginning, but for the first time since the Devourers appeared, the galaxy had hope, and that hope had a strange accent and an even stranger way of fighting. The Meridian Gate hung in space like a massive door between two parts of the galaxy. This ancient station, built thousands of years ago, controlled the fastest travel route to the Council's core systems. Lose the Meridian Gate, and the Devourers would have a clear path to attack everything the galaxy held dear. All ships to battle stations, ordered Admiral Karen Mitchell from the bridge of her flagship, USS Freedom. Around her, a massive fleet assembled. Earth ships, Clordian battle cruisers, Dronari science vessels, and Melrathi squadrons. This would be the first real test of their training together. Admiral, reported her sensor officer. Devourer signatures detected. They're coming out of hyperspace now. What emerged was worse than anyone expected. 60 Devourer ships appeared, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly green light. They were bigger than before, more dangerous looking. Maintain defensive positions, Mitchell commanded. Remember your training. Wait for my signal. The Devourer ships moved in their familiar pattern, perfect formation organized like a swarm. The Allied fleet, however, broke every rule of traditional space combat. Ships spread out irregularly, creating what human tacticians called kill zones of overlapping fire. Fleet Captain Harrison to all ships, Jack Harrison called from the Vigilance. Remember, they think in patterns. We think in chaos. The battle began as the Devourers opened fire. Green energy beams lanced through space. The Clordian battleship Mighty Defender took several hits directly to its shields. Shields down to 40%. General Thork reported from his modified command center. Instead of panic, his voice held determination. Executing Maneuver 7. The huge Clordian ship didn't retreat as it once would have. Instead, it spun on its axis, using its momentum to present fresh shield sections while its weapons fired continuously. The maneuver was pure human doctrine. Keep moving, keep shooting, never give up. Captain Owen Brooks commanded a squadron of mixed ships. Red Squadron, they're adapting to our shields. Switch to kinetic weapons. His ships fired physical projectiles, simple bullets and missiles. The Devourer's energy-absorbing hull struggled with this primitive technology. Explosions rippled across enemy ships as basic metal tore through their organic armor. On the planet below, Marine Colonel Emma Blake led the ground forces. The Devourers had dropped thousands of infantry units, bioships small enough to land. These ground units were terrifying, insect-like creatures as tall as cars with too many legs and too many weapons. "Remember your training," Blake shouted to her mixed unit of humans, Melrathi, and Clordian warriors. "They're scary-looking, but they die just like anything else." Her soldiers had trained for months together. The Melrathi, once peaceful, now fought with surprising ferocity. They used their natural agility to flank enemy positions while Clordian heavy units provided covering fire. Humans moved between them, coordinating with tactical tablets that showed real-time battle data. Private Jackson Reeves, fighting his first real battle, found himself fighting alongside a Melrathi warrior named Kreetak. The bird-like soldier had lost her fear of violence, embracing the brutal efficiency of human tactics. "Behind you," Reeves shouted, firing his enhanced rifle at a devourer that had flanked their position. Kreetak spun and used her talons to tear into another creature. "Together we fight better than alone," she called back. The human medic, Dr. Alex Garcia, patched up wounded soldiers under fire. He'd taught alien medics how to treat combat wounds, and now they worked side by side, saving lives regardless of species. In space, the battle raged on. The Drenari science officer, Zex-9, made a crucial discovery. Admiral Mitchell. Their command ships are the larger ones with 3 energy spires. They coordinate all others. "All ships target those spires," Mitchell ordered. "Brooks, your squadron, goes for intercept." Brooks's squadron, a mixture of human and alien ships flying in loose formation, dove toward the Devourer command vessels. They didn't approach directly, that would be suicide. Instead, they came in from below, using the planet's gravity to add speed while attacking from an unexpected angle. "Targeting computers are confused," reported Jake Peters. "Their guns can't track us when we're this close to the planet's gravity well." The squadron destroyed 2 command ships before the Devourers could react. Immediately, parts of the enemy fleet began moving erratically, their perfect coordination broken. General Thork seized the opportunity. All heavy weapons, concentrated, fire on confused sectors. Massive Clordian energy cannons designed for long-range bombardment fired into the disorganized Devourer formations. Ships that once moved with perfect precision now crashed into each other or fired at empty space where Allied ships had been seconds before. Captain Harrison piloted the Vigilance through the chaos, his crew working like a well-oiled machine. Lisa Martinez called out targets while Nina Walsh coordinated with other ships using the new hybrid communication system. 3 more command ships identified, Walsh announced. "Sharing data now." The combined fleet pressed their advantage. Human tactics had unleashed something in the other species, a willingness to fight dirty, to be unpredictable, to survive at any cost. On the ground, Colonel Blake's forces pushed forward. The Melrathi had learned human battle cries, and their high-pitched war screams mixed with human curses as they advanced. Clordian warriors who once stood still behind shields now moved and fired from cover. "We're winning," Blake realized with surprise. "We're actually pushing them back." Private Maria Gonzalez used her flamethrower to clear a path through enemy positions. The Devourers recoiled from fire. Perhaps their organic nature made them vulnerable to something so simple yet effective. "Keep the pressure up," Gonzalez shouted. "They don't like the heat." Back in space, the tide had turned. The Devourers, so confident in their overwhelming numbers, found themselves being dismantled piece by piece. Every ship they lost weakened, their coordination further. Admiral Mitchell saw the moment of victory approaching. "All ships prepare for final push. Brooks, Harrison, converge on their flagship." The combined assault was something the galaxy had never seen before. Human aggression mixed with alien technology created devastation on a scale that terrified even the attackers. When the last Devourer ship finally exploded, a cheer went up across the Allied fleet. They had won. Not just survived, but won. The aftermath was sobering. Thousands were dead on both sides. The Meridian Gate was saved, but at a heavy cost. As ships returned to their stations, Captain Harrison found General Thork waiting in the hangar bay. "Human Commander," Thork said formally. "My people owe you an apology. We thought you were savages." Harrison smiled tiredly. "And now?" "Now I understand. You are savages." Thork paused. "But you are our savages." Dr. Sullivan's research team swarmed over captured Devourer technology. "Their ships are biological computers," she explained to President Ryan later. "They're strong, but they can't adapt as fast as we can. That's our advantage." The victory at Meridian Gate changed everything. Other species stopped questioning human methods and started embracing them. Training programs expanded, technology sharing accelerated. But everyone knew this was just the first battle in a much longer war. The Devourers had billions more ships throughout the galaxy. They would adapt to human tactics eventually. Across the galaxy, military commanders studied the battle data. They saw how human aggression, alien technology, and unified command had created something greater than any single species could achieve. Alone, Ambassador Click sent a message to the Galactic Council. "The Meridian Gate holds. The Devourers can be beaten, but we must continue to learn from our human allies. Today we saw what united action can accomplish." As Earth's ships returned home for resupply and repair, Admiral Mitchell knew the real war was just beginning. Their galaxy had tasted victory, but the feast would be long and bloody. Yet for the first time since the distress call echoed across the stars, the galaxy had reason to hope. Humanity had arrived, and the Devourers would learn to fear what that meant. Theta Station buzzed with nervous energy. The Devourers had regrouped faster than anyone expected. Thousands of their ships were approaching the Council's central hub, and if it fell, the war would be lost. "They've learned from our tactics," reported Dr. Mary Sullivan to President Ryan via holographic communication. "They're no longer fighting in tight formations. They're spreading out, just like we do." "Then we need something new," Ryan replied. "What about Project Mindwipe?" Sullivan hesitated. "It's ready, but it's risky. If we fail, if we don't try, we definitely fail. Prepare the virus." Project Mindwipe was humanity's most dangerous gambit. Deep in Earth's secret labs, scientists had been studying captured Devourer biomatter. They discovered that all Devourer ships were connected through a biological network, a shared consciousness that made them so effective. Lieutenant Ryan Connor received his assignment in a sealed briefing room. Admiral Mitchell and Captain Harrison stood before a holographic display of a massive Devourer command ship. "This is their queen ship," Mitchell explained. "Our intelligence suggests it's at the center of their fleet structure. Destroy it and the entire force could collapse." "How do we get close?" Connor asked. "That thing is the size of a small moon." Harrison smiled grimly. "That's why we're not trying to destroy it. We're trying to infect it." The plan was unprecedented. A stealth team would infiltrate the Queen ship using a combination of human and Krazen stealth technology. Once inside, they would plant a virus designed by Dr. Sullivan, a digital infection that would rewrite the Devourer's shared consciousness. Connor's team consisted of 6 humans and 6 aliens. The Krazen warriors, natural masters of camouflage, had trained for months with human special forces. Other species contributed their best: a Dronari hacker, Melrathi scouts who could sense biosignatures, and Clordian warriors for muscle. "Remember," Connor told his team as they prepared their stealth ship, the Shadow Dancer, "we only get one shot at this. Stay quiet, stay hidden, and trust your training." While Connor's team prepared, the largest battle in galactic history began around Theta Station. Thousands of ships from dozens of species formed a desperate defense line. The Devourers came in numbers that darkened the stars. Captain Owen Brooks commanded the USS Defiance at the front of the battle. "All ships, remember, we're not here to win this fight. We're here to buy time for Connor's mission." The fighting was fiercer than anything seen before. Devourers had adapted to counter human unpredictability, and now both sides were evenly matched. The space around Theta Station became a graveyard of ships from both fleets. General Thork's battleship took heavy damage early in the fight. Shields failing, his weapons officer reported. Sir, should we retreat? Retreat? After all the humans taught us about fighting? Thork's laugh rumbled through the bridge. Full power to weapons. If we die, we take them with us. The mighty. Defender rammed directly into a Devourer cruiser, its weapons firing at point-blank range even as both ships began to tear apart. Meanwhile, the Shadow Dancer slipped through the chaos like a ghost. Its stealth systems, combining human technology with Kresin expertise, made it nearly invisible to Devourer sensors. Approaching the Queen ship, Connor whispered into his comm. Visual contact in 3, 2, 1. The Queen ship filled their view screen. It was monstrous, a living vessel kilometers wide, pulsing with organic energy. Thousands of smaller Devourer ships orbited it like moons around a planet. Scanning for entry points, reported Lieutenant Nina Walsh, who had joined the mission, as their computer specialist. There, a waste disposal vent. It leads to internal systems. The stealth ship latched onto the massive hull. Connor's team suited up in armor designed to mimic Devourer biosignatures. The suit made them look like part of the ship itself. As they crawled through narrow passages inside the Queen ship, the true nature of the Devourers became clear. The entire vessel was alive. Walls breathed, floors pulsed with blood-like fluids, and organic neural networks carried information throughout the ship. It's like being inside a giant brain, whispered a Kresin warrior, normally fearless, but now visibly disturbed. They reached the central processing chamber, a massive organic computer where the virus could be delivered. Devourer maintenance creatures crawled throughout the chamber, tending to connections that networked the fleet. Plant the virus here. Sullivan's voice crackled through their secure comm. The infection will spread through their entire network, within minutes. As Walsh and the Dronari hacker worked to interface their device with the alien system, alarms began to sound. Dozens of Devourer bioguards converged on their position, huge armored creatures that served as internal security. Defensive positions, Connor ordered. Cover them while they work. The firefight inside the Queen ship was desperate and brutal. Human plasma weapons met organic armor. Melrathi scouts used their natural abilities to spot hidden attackers. Clordian, warriors formed a shield wall with their bodies protecting the hackers. Almost there, Walsh shouted over the gunfire. Virus is uploading. 30%, 50%. A massive Devourer smashed through their defensive line. It grabbed Private Daniel Hayes and began to crush him with organic tendrils. Hayes managed to activate his suicide charge, taking the creature with him in an explosion that shook the chamber. Upload complete, Walsh announced. The virus is spreading. Everyone out, Connor ordered. Move, move. Back in space, the battle raged on. Admiral Mitchell watched the carnage from the Freedom. Her ships were holding, but barely. Hundreds of vessels from both sides had been destroyed. Admiral, her sensor operator called out, something's happening to the Devourer fleet. On screens across Allied ships, they watched as Devourer vessels began to falter. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination started drifting aimlessly. Some fired at their own allies, others simply stopped moving entirely. The virus is working, Harrison shouted. All ships, press the attack. Connor's team barely made it back to the Shadow Dancer. As they fled the Queen ship, massive explosions began tearing it apart from within. The virus was rewriting the ship's bionetwork, causing catastrophic system failures. Report to Admiral Mitchell, Connor gasped as they cleared the Devourer fleet. Queen ship is dying. Mission successful. The battle turned decisively in the Allied forces' favor. Without the coordination of their command structure, the Devourers became vulnerable. Ship after ship was destroyed as the viral infection spread through their biological network. General Thork, his ship heavily damaged but still fighting, led a final charge. For Theta Station, for the Alliance. The combined might of the galaxy, united under human tactics and alien technology, decimated the invading force. When the last Devourer ship finally fell silent, a cheer went across all Allied channels. But on board the Shadow Dancer, Connor's team mourned their losses. 3 humans and 2 aliens had died to make the mission successful. Their sacrifice had saved the galaxy, but the cost was heavy. 2 weeks later, at the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Klix stood to address the assembled species. The battle scars were fresh, but the war was over. The Devourers had retreated beyond known space, their hive intelligence shattered by the virus. Today we honor those who fought and those who fell, Klix began. But most importantly, we acknowledge a truth we were slow to accept. When the distress call echoed through the galaxy, humanity answered. They showed us how to fight, how to survive, how to win. He turned to face Admiral Mitchell and President Ryan. We feared humanity's arrival because they were different. They fight without honor, break rules, do whatever it takes to survive. But we were wrong to call that savage. That is simply what one must do when facing extinction. The Melrathi ambassador, her white feathers now marked with battle scars, spoke next. Humans taught us that honor means fighting for what you love, not fighting by ancient rules. They showed us that survival matters more than pride. General Thork, using crutches after losing a leg in the battle, drew himself to full height. To any species that faces the humans in future, he declared, remember this, they are not monsters. They do not fear death, they fear failure, and there is no greater ally you could wish for. President Ryan addressed the council for the first time. We didn't come to conquer or convert you. We came to help. That's what humans do. Whether it's one person or a whole galaxy, if you need help, we answer the call. The celebrations went on for days across member worlds. But in quiet moments, soldiers from every species shared stories of the war. They spoke of human marines, fighting alongside Melrathi scouts, of Clordian warriors learning to improvise, of Drenari scientists thinking creatively. Dr. Sullivan's final report to Earth contained one observation. The galaxy will never be the same. Species that have been separate for millennia are now united, and at the center of it all, humanity showed that our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships, it's our refusal to give up, no matter the odds. 6 months after the Battle of Theta Station, something unprecedented happened. The Galactic Council voted to establish a permanent human alliance command. Species that once looked down on Earth now sent their best soldiers to train with human instructors. Admiral Mitchell became the first Supreme Allied Commander, with advisors from every member species. The military academies added human combat doctrine to their curricula. Children across the galaxy learned about the Battle of Theta Station in their history classes. Ambassador Klix's final words to the Council summed up the changed galaxy. We called for help when we faced our extinction. Humanity answered, and taught us how to fight back. They terrified us with their ferocity, but saved us with their courage. The distress call echoed across the stars, and humanity's arrival changed everything. We are no longer the galaxy we once were. We are stronger. We are united. We are survivors. In the depths of space, the Devourer ships continued to drift, their hive mind permanently damaged. They would never threaten the galaxy again. And if they ever did, they would face something far more terrifying than any single species, a united galaxy that had learned to fight like humans. The war was over, but the legend of humanity's arrival had just begun.